All right, there it is. I forgot to unpause, so I'm just going to run through this really quickly. We were looking at one of the reasons why, first of all, we're not doing options anymore. That's one, and then two, at least I would say that like don't do it. And so it's again more reasons, but yeah. Anyways, so also a part of this though is not just simply like, hey, don't do options calls, for HIBs, that sort of thing, or lab deep, if you want to go that route. Also though, when you invest, you're going to look at the differences between short-term capital gains taxes versus long-term capital gains taxes, talking about when you have a security and you sell it before owning it for a full year. You incur short-term capital gains taxes, which is just the normal federal tax brackets. The state of California, other states may vary, but this state does not make a difference between when you sell before a year is up or after. It's the same income taxes that are applied. But for this though, the federal government does make that difference. And just to show you really quickly, that sort of significant difference, because it's nothing to scoff at. You can see here that $40,000 to 80, to just for like context here, $40,000 to about 500, right? You go from 22 through 30 through 35, and then over that's 37, and then here's short-term capital gains taxes. Up to $40,000 is zero, right? We saw the other ones, right? It's everything between before 22, and then from 40 to 400 thereabouts is 15 only. Again, we were seeing 22 to like 35, and then after that, where short-term capital gains taxes you at 37%. This only does 20%. So big differences there. Again, that's just one point there. So that sort of thing in mind. Don't do options. You're gonna get less money, and also like a bunch of other reasons.
It's weird that there's a flat rate as well as the percent on this. It's like it's not just 35%. It's 47 grand plus 35%.
You mean like the bracketing system that we go through?
But the other one, the long term, didn't have that flat rate in front of the percentage on tax owed. It's just like $1. It's just like between 40 grand and 250 grand for where the other one it has the dollar amount and then also a percent.
Yeah,
it's like.
Unless you're talking about, oh yeah, by the way, there's taxes, which is funny, just because we should probably talk about, there's a difference between like single filers and then like being married and stuff like that. But if you're single, which you probably are, this is sort of like what applies. And again, you can look all this, NerdBall is great for that sort of thing. You can look all this up. Laura, just to make sure that I'm mapping on, because maybe someone else has the same question you do. Are you referring to the fact that it's like, here's all these different like categories that you are, and by the way, you own your own house, head of household, right there. But if you're just single, like all this, are you referring to the fact that it's like here's all these different categories, but here's single, and then here's like taxes that apply to the money that's made through this, and then like short term doesn't do that sort of thing, taxes owed.
Oh no, not exactly. It's like so because the other one.
Where's your head at?
It has in this column the taxes owed. It's like the dollar and then plus this percent.
Yes.
It's like 33 grams plus the percent, so it's not just 32%. Yeah, it's actually a lot more than that. Where the other one, it's just a bracket. It's like a simple bracket.
It's between the short term and long term, it's the bracketing system across the board. What this is talking about is that let's say you make up to exactly $164,925, right? You will owe $33,603. Except and then you talk to a TurboTax expert, there'll be like tax benefits or credits, or hey, I donated to charity, or blah blah blah, this sort of thing. But that's what you'll owe outside of that sort of thing. So then anything between this number, right, 926 to 925, right, 926 and 209 and 425, right, then that'll be 32% of that. That's how the bracketing system works.
Okay.
By the way, taxes. That's how it goes. That makes sense. Important to know for those who definitely don't know, because a lot of us don't, because again, we're just not taught financial literacy. Important to talk about. And this just like doesn't have that. It just doesn't let you know. But again, this is pretty easy to calculate. And certainly if you go with like TurboTax's, they'll TurboTax, they'll let you know. But yeah, important to know. Thanks for bringing out that to note about the system tax we have in this country, bracketing, very important. Anyways, all right. So again, a lot of the reason why I'm going over this is just really to have you guys be aware, so that you can know this sort of stuff, but and also just for future reference as well, because this will not be like options is not. It's not going to be the last time you hear about this or think about this sort of stuff if you are investing. So besides the fact of short-term capital gains taxes applying for things like his, because it only goes up to 8 months out, right? Other things can go beyond a year, so there's that factor involved, right? But anyways, on top of that, there's also the fact that it's deep in the money. We talked about this last time. Just in a nutshell, what it means is when there's a big difference between what strike. Again, we talked about we talked a lot about options last time. I'm not trying to go through the whole of what is an option, again, but just because you guys can look back on this. I think this was last video. You guys can see that, or maybe the one before. But anyways, so deep in the money, same thing, right? There's a big difference between the strike price and what is the current price of that security. So there's that. That increases the chances that you will get early assignment, meaning that you have to come up with the shares because somebody was like, hey, I want my shares because they exercised their call, that sort of thing. Anyways, though, so there's that factor to consider in all this. There's also very low volume. So I was looking at HIBs, and I don't really estimate right anything here, but the point about HIBs though is that what happened was that if you looked at anything beyond I think $5, all of a sudden the volume just started going to zero. And this was, I think I looked at this multiple times through different months. Strike prices, expiration dates, I should say, months out. There's I was looking at July, I was looking at November, what happens if it expired here? And it was the same thing. There was just such an extremely low amount of volume. What this means is that if you manage to sell your call, right, and then some time passes and the price of HIBs, for example, goes up by more than $5, which you could easily do in a period of a week or 2 weeks, then all of a sudden it looks like a significant increase of chance of you getting early assignment and having to come up with those shares later because nothing was being traded around. There was no exchanging of hands. This is actually the other thing I was wanting to show you guys. I'll just bring it over here because I can just tell you. So this comes from the CBOE themselves, which is the Chicago Board of Exchange, and what they said was on average that that 10% when you sell an option, right? There's a 10% chance of that option being exercised. 55 to 60% of those are sold before. So you sell it to someone, they sell it themselves as being closed out. They sell it to someone else, 55 to 60%, and then 30 to 35% just expire worthless. The thing is with these is that the very fact that there is such a low amount of volume that you are most likely selling to an algorithm, the algorithm will not allow them to expire worthless and give up all that money they will exercise to get something out of it if you manage to sell it, that sort of thing. So chances are it may be on average 10% get exercised, but with the very fact that we have such an extreme low amount of volume, that increases those chances pretty significantly. And even if I worked this out mathematically, if it goes to even 15% of the contracts that you exercise, that you buy that get exercised, if only 15% of them, you lose approximately 45% of the money that you'd been making from these things. And so with these options, they may very well double your just what it looks like. You double your gains, you'll lose half of it, and then also you still have to deal with short-term capital gains taxes. And yeah, that's basically all I want to say. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right. Yeah. So just as an idea, did you want to say something like that?
No, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah. So just as an idea, over the next 2 weeks, over the next week, next 5 to 10 business days, if you want to take whatever amount you have, split up that evenly over those days, and invest multiple times on HIBs. Lab D would be another one that's really good. But yeah. negatives at least, I would say. Go for it. You should be fine. The narrative has not been supported that CPI data came out, and it has seemingly disallowed us to continue to follow history. We were looking for that third segment. Such does not seem to be viable at this point because inflation is just not allowing it to happen. And we see that come out through the markets. It took a bigger hit, and it looks like the best of what it might happen now, likelihood speaking, is that it does the same thing, that recycling that same strategy that the S&P 500 did during the Great Financial Crisis, where it just goes up to that support line that I showed you guys earlier. But regardless, next week, 2 weeks, just as an idea, again, not a financial recommendation, but that's about it. All right, thank you guys for coming along. Do not buy those options. You will lose everything. All right, goodbye.